Are
Dan,
you not entertained?
are you a little sleepy,
You
brother?
not entertained?
How'd your night go, man?
She Sherino
What'd you do yesterday?
did did a little diaper party celebrating. Nothing too crazy. Pretty mundane Sunday, tell you the truth. The only other positive part about the day was watching Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs take down the Ravens to advance to their fourth Super Bowl in 5 years. NBD, bro.
Let's go. Let's go back. Let's go
Can you
back.
believe it? Can you believe it? I
Take
don't
them
even know how
back.
to like articulate everything that's been going on with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just surreal, dude. It is surreal.
Yeah, it's been a special year, that's for sure. We've had a lot of conversations about the frustrations and the mistakes and the woes, and it's a very unique year. We usually see the Chiefs dominate throughout, and we've solidified ourselves now as if we get in the dance, you don't want us. You don't want us because we're going to scratch and claw and find a way. And Patrick Mahomes has proved that he'll find a way to win games, man. And guys have stepped up across the field everywhere. Defense has stepped up. MVS has stepped up. It's been a full unit attack on everybody
Oh yeah,
at every moment.
it's incredible. It's incredible. Mahomes up to this point has been playing damn near perfect football, no turnovers. He had a perfect first half, basically. The receivers are playing fantastic football. No, zero drops yesterday, Trey.
Yep.
Zero
Yep.
drops. And then obviously the defense has been our saving grace, and they just continue to be the backbone of this team. It's
Lights
incredible.
out.
It's
Lights out.
absolutely
Lights out
incredible.
defense. It is.
The Ravens were the so-called best team in the league,
Yep.
right? We heard it all year. They're the true number one. Look at any power rankings, it's going to be the Ravens up top, or maybe the Niners. Most places I was seeing Baltimore,
Yep.
and that's what happens. I don't know. That's what happens when you poke the bear.
Yeah, and it's been a weird offseason too where, we've been the villain. We've talked about it numerous times. We've been dogs all year and all playoffs, other than the Miami game. Going into the Super Bowl now, we're dogs for the Super Bowl. Whereas last year we were only dogs in the playoffs when we went to the Super Bowl and won it. And so here we are, a new breed of Chiefs, football here, a new era. It feels like we've eclipsed into a whole new realm of football for the Chiefs. And
Yep.
uh, yeah, I mean, and we've talked about players, but man, this coaching staff has been lights out. And you got to give your hats off to those folks because throughout the year that was a lot of conversation as well. Was the coaching hasn't been there when we really needed it. So um, with that being said, Dan, let's kind of move into this. And before we get into the player of the game here, Atlas Saloon, one of our best sponsors here, one of our most favorite team members of the Fastest 40, has treated us very well, specifically been able to go down there and enjoy the environment while we've been live on the show and interviewed Nate,
Oh yeah.
last week. That was a great experience as well. But what the Atlas has made down there, what the Atlas has going on down there has been phenomenal. 10 beers on tap. The bar was, established in the 1800s, which is crazy. The bar itself is like the oldest this side of the river, or maybe in Missouri, whatever the fact is there. I don't know, but whatever, it's crazy. And great atmosphere down there. If you're looking for a place to watch the Super Bowl, that is going to be freaking electric at the Atlas here in a couple weeks. But Dan, start us off with your player of the game from the AFC Championship.
It was hard for me not to pick George Karlaftis here. He had a ton of pressure on Lamar Jackson. He kept him stressed out. I mean, number 8 was stressed out during that whole game. Strip sack, critical moment, right? So I don't want to take anything away from Karlaftis here by saying this, but L'Jarius Sneed had to be my player of the game. To get, I mean, the taunting call on Zay Flowers, right? He spikes the ball at him, pushes him over, stands
Yeah.
over him, flexes, does the whole deal. And then poetic justice comes right back around for Jerry to pop that sucker out of his hands and allow one of his teammates to fall on it in the end zone for the touchback. At first, that ball comes out and it's like, hey, I think he lost it. The first second of that replay made it clear as day, and L'Jarius Sneed just does what he's been doing all year long, making critical plays and critical moments. Phenomenal performance from honestly the entire defense, the secondary, the linebackers, the D line. Everybody had a phenomenal game, but I really truly believe that forced fumble in the red zone, it was the difference maker in this game.
Yeah.
So I got to give it to
Freak,
Sneed.
freaking stud, man. And what a, I mean, what a, just a lights out play, not just go for the tackle and try to tackle him within the one, but to specifically target the football there and knock the ball out. And when you see those fumbles, it's usually like they ended up crossing and the ball just barely came out after. But that was like the perfect moment, man. I remember that ball came out and I was like, no way, he crossed. And then, like you said, first second of that replay, I was like, holy shit, this is
There was
it,
no
man.
doubt.
Like, yeah, that was absolutely lights out defense there. I'm gonna say lights out like 15 times this episode because the phrase that surrounds the defense, dude. But my player of the game, I'm going Pacheco, and for one real reason here, it's not for yards, it's not for all these touchdowns or whatever it may be. It's actually for two things. One is pass blocking. He has turned into another Jerick McKinnon in the backfield for pass blocking. It doesn't matter who's coming through the hole. Pacheco has stepped up and taken on absolutely anybody, dude. He was blocking Jadeveon Clowney yesterday, Roquan
Yeah.
Smith. He was eating when it was in the passing downs, man. And then my second thing, my second item I want to talk about for Pacheco is the carries. 24 carries. That man took a freaking load yesterday. And that, when you look at our drives, how long we had 9-minute drives, 7-minute drives, 8-minute drives. I mean, it was consistent. Like, we are going to drain this defense down to nothing. And we did just that. The offense wasn't able to put anything on the board in the second half, but man, they were just grinding away. And that started with Pacheco, man. And that dude, I mean, he just freaking eats up the contact. And he's just such a valuable asset to this offense at this point. And he is my player of the game for the AFC Championship, man.
No, I love that. I think that was the big concern, right? Whether or not we were going to get things going on the ground. Anyone that took Pacheco's carries or yards or anytime touchdown, they cashed out yesterday because he eclipsed the over on every single one of those things and got the touchdown. Pretty fantastic performance from number 10. I mean, truly, you look back at the key of success of any of these playoff games, and you can point to number 10 as being a big time contributor. And I do love that pick for player of the
Yep.
game. Let's get into the actual game and start breaking down some of this stuff. But we'll give a shout out to Better Homes and Gardens real quick too.
Yeah, so Better Homes and Gardens, specifically Katie Lawrence, who is a real estate agent with Better Homes. She serves the Kansas City metro area, looking for the perfect house for you to buy or build if you want to build. If you have a house to sell, she's taking care of that dirty work as well. So you know how stressful it can be to buy or build or sell a house. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And having the right real estate agent on your side, someone who cares about the end result for you, that is hugely important to making you happy in that process, right? So Katie's going to prioritize you and your family throughout that process. If you want to start that process now, whether you're 3 months out, 6 months out, 1 year out, you're never too early. So be sure to give her a call, shoot her a text at 816-868-1920 and get the ball started there. So Dan, kick us off with the game here, man.
Yeah, dude. So before kickoff, we could talk about this a little bit. Did you see that little dust up between Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Justin Tucker? Talk about three of the best to ever do it at their respective positions, and a little feud during the warm up during the pregame.
Yeah,
What do
so
you make of all that?
I didn't know about that until like midway through the second. And Strato, it was a game break, and Strato was like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "No." And then I started like flipping through Twitter, and then it was like one of those videos where you watch it long enough and you see something new every time you watch it. It was like the first time I watched it, Pat grabbed the kicking tee and he threw it, and I was like, "Oh, whatever." And the second time I watched it, he kicked it and then threw it. I was like, "Well, damn." And then the third time I watched it, Travis is grabbing a helmet, tossing a helmet and a couple footballs. I was like, dude, what the hell just happened, man? Like, what is going on? So I saw a couple different things, a couple different players commenting how, teams share the field. And then I saw a couple things about how, you got your respective half, you stay on that half, and you don't bother the other team. So I've personally never seen teams intermingle together on the field. You see them talking and hanging out if you got old buddies on across the sideline. But I've never seen like a kicker on my side of the field kicking field goals where I'm trying to sling the ball. So I thought that was weird. And if he's over there just trying to be a masculine home game, this is my field kind of a deal, like kick rocks, man. I would have threw that helmet in the freaking stadium.
That's just such a non-kicker thing to do if that's the
Yeah.
situation. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not the place a kicker would ever take, or a stance they would ever take, because they're just not out there, getting hit. They're actually
Beefing
trying
it
to
up.
avoid the
Yeah.
conflict usually. So,
Yeah. Right.
not something you're expecting from a kicker if that is the case. Can't say whether or not, any one person there was right or wrong, but it sure made for good reactions on social media at the very least. So, game gets kicked off for real, and we were treated to really a defensive classic in this game. I mean, the Chiefs put on a clinic defensively, got the dub
Yep.
17-10, punch our ticket for the fourth Super Bowl in 5 years, second straight appearance in the Super Bowl. Defending champs get an opportunity to defend the crown for real on the biggest stage. So, I mean, I think the clear highlight of this game was defense. It was everything that we did from a pressure perspective, everything that came down with our cornerbacks and their wide receivers. I highlighted that on the Charm City Heavyweights podcast that we were on last week as one of the premier matchups, the DBs and the wide receivers. And we saw some pressure result on Lamar Jackson from that great coverage, and vice versa. Right? We were able to get Lamar Jackson a little frustrated, and then he would throw an errant pass. So seemed like we were just running every phase of the ball well. Drew Tranquil had a phenomenal game from the linebacker position, kind of filling in for Willie Gay, doing a little bit of that shadowing, that spying on Lamar Jackson, and it was just phenomenal. Great tackling, and I mean, you just go down to the most minute fundamental, and we were executing defensively. It was great.
Yeah, something I want to touch on here. I'm kind of looking through it right now. Something that I read today, and I don't know the truth of it, but I will speak on some stats I'm looking at here right now, Dan. And this goes into the defensive conversation here. Is that the Baltimore Ravens ran the ball 16 times. Those are designated runs, and for a team to be, such a run heavy offense and be so successful at it with the dual backs and the best running quarterback in the league, to get away from the game plan that has taken them to this point, it is baffling for me. And where we saw last week where the Chiefs just got shredded in the run game by the Buffalo Bills, and that game wasn't copycatted this weekend by Baltimore was kind of crazy for me. And I think part of that goes into they were really pretty much trailing the whole game, and there's always
Yep.
that thought of, man, I have to catch up to Patrick Mahomes. Like, he could score right now. And so I have to go score right now. And I think that's a lot of pressure. But to abandon what has made you successful all year is crazy. And outside of Lamar Jackson, who had 54 yards on 8 carries, Gus Edwards was next with 3 carries. 3 carries. He had 20 yards. Zay Flowers had more carries, or 2 carries, where Justice Hill had 3 carries. So, I mean, just abandon what they knew and abandon, trying to exploit a weakness for the defense for the Chiefs, right? Where we've been just getting gashed, not just last week, but all year. And, I'm not sure what the thought process there was, but it went into our favor, and really, Spags and the rest of that team, rest of that defense took care of business. We knew going into the game they were going to have to beat us. We wanted them to beat us through the air. Can Lamar Jackson outgun Patrick Mahomes and beat us through the air? And with the secondary we have, I'm fully confident that we are going to be able to get it done. The pass rush was off the charts, like you've said. And other than a couple, I think we had 3 missed sacks. I mean, Lamar Jackson is so elusive in the backfield, man. There was, some of those plays, like they were completely wrapped up on him. He like squeezes out, man. So, just crazy. But hats off to the Ravens offense. That's, the Ravens team in whole. That's a good football team, and but this defense is just lights out, bro. Lights out.
Well, something you said too that I want to highlight, and it was really the main point of what you're trying to say was that the Ravens abandoned what had made them successful. And I think that surprised a lot of people, and you kind of alluded to it there for a minute. But just to expand on that, the game script took their greatest strength away from them. The Chiefs milked the clock on that first drive. I mean, we took 9 minutes off of that thing to get points on the board and just dominated time of possession throughout. I think we ran almost 20 more plays than what the Ravens had. Maybe another 15 more minutes on time of possession. And really with all of those 2 elements in particular, you cannot drain any more of the clock that you have at that point, especially when you're down the entirety of the game. There was never a point in the game where the Ravens led in the entirety of regulation. So combine that with the third down efficiency that they did not have. They were 3 for 11 on third down this week. It was just a defensive masterpiece that we saw from this team. So you really just can't stress it enough.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But, as we've talked this whole postseason now, with the spot we're in with these players that we have, there's some postseason records, floating around out there. And Travis was able to surpass one of those, which was all-time receptions in postseason history. He is now the leader of all of the NFL, not tight ends, not just receivers, all NFL, everybody who's gone to the postseason, all-time leading receiver or leading in receptions with 156 receptions. Just an absolute unit when it comes to the postseason. We're always talking about Patrick Mahomes, but here comes Travis Kelce, shattering records. He's got more opportunities. I think he's 3 touchdowns away from tying Jerry Rice for the postseason, which, might be a little bit of a stretch there for the Super Bowl, but we could see it in the Super Bowl. He had 2 last week against Buffalo. So it'll be interesting to see. That's just another guy that's, looking back at the last 10 years, like we're so lucky to be a part of this franchise and watch him grow and just a freaking unit, man. Unit.
When you surpass a guy like Jerry Rice, who is clearly the greatest wide receiver of all time from a numbers perspective, both in the regular season and in the postseason, several records. A lot of these records have held up for decades. And we're seeing a tight end come in here and take some of these records. It not only speaks to Travis Kelce's talent, which is undeniable, it's the sustainability that our team has had over these last 6 seasons to give him as many opportunities as possible to go out there and keep setting these records. No team has played more games than us since 2018.
Yep.
And so for these guys to continue to do it and do it at a high level is just something that you do not see but once a decade. And it's and that's if you're lucky. You know what I mean? Not even and the magnitude of which it's happening right now is just nuts. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has the most playoff wins over the player's first 7 years. He only started 6 of them.
Yeah.
Didn't even need that first year to get this record or pace the numbers the way that he is. Travis Kelce continuing to get 3 or more catches. He had a perfect first half. Went like 9 for 9 in the first half with 100 yards. Incredible. And then Mahomes played in his sixth AFC Championship game and won 4 of them, which ties him for guys all-time career guys like Elway and Terry Bradshaw, surpassing those guys. It's just insane.
It is. It is. It's a good moment right now to take a step back, look around, enjoy, take a nice deep breath of the Super Bowl air, and enjoy what we've witnessed specifically this season, but in a whole, and what a prime age, you and I are in, at 28, 29 years old, to where we've experienced this in our youth, and at a point where we can go experience the games on our own, afford to do that, but we're still young enough to really go out there and get after it. And so what a moment, man. We've really witnessed, greatness in history here. So take a step back, take a breath, and then get ready to get back in the trenches here, starting next week, man.
Yep. No, I am definitely ready for that, man. I mean, we've talked a ton about this defense. Obviously, we'll get into the breakdown on offense and defense. Quick shout out to eCoffee, KC Local Coffee Company. Man, they're putting some really good flavors out there for you to get your morning started. Beans sourced from all over the globe, brought here to Kansas City, roasted, ground, and packaged to you right here in the 816. So they're doing a lot of great stuff. www.eeroastscoffee.com. Trey, on the defensive side of the ball, we talked the numbers about, what we were able to do. 2 turnovers in the red zone is huge against this Baltimore Ravens team and the clear difference maker. There was a stat that got put out. Teams that are +2 in turnover differential, which we were, win 80% of the time in the NFL. 80% of the time. So that just speaks to the importance of that, right? Us generating those turnovers, but at the same time, being secure on the offensive side of the ball allowed us to carry that positive turnover differential. And so what a great showing from both phases of the ball where they just kind of buckled down. But man, that defense, it's been kind of an Achilles heel for us all year long, where we can pressure the quarterback, we can force punts, we can turn 7s 3s, but we can't get the damn ball out of their hands and back into our offense's hands.
Right. Yep.
On any of those key moments. So just watching this team come out and do it was phenomenal. The one negative about this game is that we lost Charles Omenihu to an ACL tear. I mean, my stomach is sick for number 90.
Freaking stud, man. Stud. He's been so clutch all year. Been a great rotational guy to come in and be fresh legs and come off the edge hard. He plays hard football, and he's got a nasty attitude as well. And it's just such a key player to have. Yeah. Yep. And you're right. That's a pretty big loss there, and the Chiefs are going to feel that one for sure.
What do you think about? I don't know if you're thinking it already.
Float it.
But giving the old Shark a call.
At this point, I'm not mad unless there's, I haven't looked at, who we got in the pipeline. So I think that's option one, take a look at guys that know the scheme, guys who have been practicing with the team all year. Let's take a look there. And if we don't think somebody is ready to step up or that has the potential to step up, it's a Super Bowl, right? It's game time. So, if one of those guys aren't ready to rock and roll, then let's look on the outside and see who's there to to jump in and make a run. It really depends on Frank Clark's health. Where's he sitting right now? How is he doing? He's had a lot of issues the last 2 or 3 years where that has to be 100% buttoned up before it's even a conversation.
Absolutely. No, I think I mean, if anything, you get Clark for some depth for a couple of key snaps here and there. But I think it's mostly the veteran presence and the leadership and the fact that he's been there before. Those are the things that I would want to bring Clark in for. But, at the same time, we've seen kind of a transition to new leadership on this defense where the younger guys are pretty much embedded in those roles.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much, I'm not saying it would disrupt the chemistry, but there's also the opportunity where you're like looking things over and saying, do we want to risk it? And when you look at the pipeline, we have a first round draft pick sitting on the bench in most of these games in Felix Anudike-Uzomah. So who knows? Maybe we give him some opportunities to go out there and ball. But
interesting.
Regardless, I feel good about our depth. But not having a Minahu, not having Nadi, we just got to make sure we're healthy as possible in every other position because we, at this point, cannot lose another one.
Yeah, right. And one more guy I want to talk about on the defense just before we switch over to the other side of the ball here is Nick Bolton, somebody who we've seen be just a freaking monster at linebacker his first 2 seasons, and then this season dealt with a lot of injuries coming into the game. Yesterday he was the leading tackler in the postseason in the NFL. That is Nick Bolton, and he looks a step behind. And I can't really determine if it's like a step behind or if he's hesitant to go make that play because he's dealing with all those. He's got a club on one hand. He dealt with the ankle and some of the foot. And he's beat up. He is. But from a guy we saw that runs sideline to sideline, has no fear of anybody or anything. He runs through everything. He's looked a little hesitant. And just kind of wanted to feel that out here because we talked linebackers a lot. This postseason with Willie Gay being injured and Drew Tranquil stepping up and being a phenomenal football player. Leo Chenol hasn't got enough credit at all. And so just to kind of cap this off, the Nick Bolton conversation, have you noticed that? Is that something you're worried about? Is that a thought process at all? Am I just too critical of Nick Bolton? I love the dude, but I just noticed things like that.
I can't say I noticed anything consistent for him. Well, there was one play where he kind of got, shook up at the line of scrimmage, didn't really make the play when he needed to, that I'm thinking of. Other than that, he was kind of all over the place. I felt like he was making really good reads and had some good pursuit on their run game, even though they did abandon that pretty early on. But I haven't noticed him being, even slower, I guess. I don't know. I might not be paying enough attention to it, maybe. I'm always looking at the defensive line to see what they're doing. But, with Nick Bolton, he is dealing with a lot of injuries. And, there was one play in particular when he could have easily got an interception. And I don't know if he just wasn't reading the ball right. And if that's a play that you're referring to from when you observe, like I could see that being something where you're like, okay, maybe he wasn't completely locked in there, but they still made the play, which is, I guess all you can ask for in those moments, right? It's like he didn't do the very best possible outcome didn't happen on that particular play, but it still felt like he was in the right position at the right time. And I don't know. Yeah. I think there's definitely a hindrance on his impact on the game because of the club. This is probably the 3rd or 4th interception that he has not been able to reel in because of this thing.
Yeah. It is interesting. And I'll say there's 2 plays I was like, okay, you can have those. I'm not worried. I didn't expect Nick Bolton to be, 100% on those. The interception was one. I don't expect guys to make that interception with a club. Maybe a secondary kind of guy like a corner. Those guys are pretty shifty with the hands and usually can make a play on that ball. But Nick Bolton, middle linebacker, not expected. Second one is the deep ball, 8 seconds of coverage on Zay Flowers. I don't expect Nick Bolton to hold that coverage for freaking 8 seconds.
That's a tough matchup.
Lamar's just running around in the backfield, just dodging dudes, right? So outside of that, I was specifically talking through open field tackles and the flat specifically. I think he had 2 or 3 where he was just like behind. And I was really like, for his whole career so far, he's been like on the hip of whoever's catching that ball, a surefire tackler. He was just a step behind and really hesitating when he comes up to the ball carrier. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. But I'm not going to dive into my man Nick too much, man. He's a freaking stud. And we're lucky to have him as a green dot for sure. But Dan, jumping over to the offensive side here as we wrap this up. I mean, these guys have, like I said when we started the game, I mean, we've just had guys step up in the right spots. And Patrick Mahomes played lights out football. Yet to throw an interception so far in the postseason. And not to say he won't next weekend, but we've played, we just played the number 1 defense in the league. And the Niners defense has not shaken out to be exactly what we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. But we're not going against the number 1 guys here in 2 weeks, right? We faced the best. We just did. And yeah, we only scored 17 points, but we looked at a team there, like you said, a couple times now where they haven't fumbled the ball. They haven't thrown interceptions. They've taken care of the ball. The 9-minute drive, the 24 carries on Pacheco, the no drops. Like, this is day and night from what we saw on Christmas Day where we were 2 weeks away from the postseason, man. I was like, we're toast, bro. That we just got shredded by the Raiders. There ain't no way. Right. We're going to go into the playoffs in the wild card and be worth a shit, But here we are, and they really turned it around. You got to give it up to the players for being, disciplined, being bought in. You got to give it up to the coaches for making those changes and making it happen. So,
1,000%.
It's just been great to watch. So it's going to be interesting to see what we dial up next week. But to talk about the game last weekend or yesterday, really, MVS, I think – I'm not so sure Kansas City owes that man an apology because what we did see in the regular season was absolutely, it was just incredibly tough to watch from all the drops.
Unacceptable.
Yep, but he's made a comeback. He's made up for those plays. He's had 3 catches over 30 yards between the Ravens and the Bills game, and all 3 of those catches were tough catches. And this one last weekend, topped off the game. It finished it.
Yeah. And
to where we needed a first down, and VS went and caught the ball, made it happen, and we kneeled out for the rest of the game. So you got to put your hats up. He made the adjustment. He fixed the problems, and he's came around and made big plays, and he's part of the reason we're going to the Super Bowl. A lot of people don't want to say that, but it is what it is.
It's true. No, it's true. He made key contributions there in the game, and really, there were a lot of non-characteristic offensive plays for us in this game, just based on what we've seen this year, right? Mahomes scrambles up the middle, narrowly escapes that defender, chucks a wobbly pass through the air, and Travis Kelce dives and fingertip catches it. Like, that's something that we've seen him drop before this year. A couple of times.
Yep.
MVS definitely embodied that too. And then Rashee Rice, I just want to highlight him. There was a play in particular, and to tell you the truth, I don't even remember the result of the play. I just remember the only reason that it happened was because Rashee Rice got lit the F up in the flat and took the hit, basically. Yes, Patrick Queen smokes him. And allows us to get that play off, and we get the first down on that play. But I was just like, man, these guys are putting their bodies on the line and getting it done. Whether it's catching the football, staying disciplined, lining up on the line of scrimmage, what have you. They were getting it done offensively, and the wide receivers definitely deserve a ton of credit for their 180 for their turnaround because it's been night and day, exactly like you said. One thing I do want to highlight here is, man, Patrick Mahomes' trainer deserves an award. I don't know if there's a sports trainer association where they give out a trainer of the year award or whatever the case is, but Mahomes got bent up like a pretzel on a play, spins around, gets the ball off, and not even 2 minutes later, his trainer has a video showing the exact workouts that showed the positioning that Patrick Mahomes was in. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen anything like it. The NFL script writers must have tipped him off or something. They said, Patrick's about to get jacked the hell up. He's going to do some sort of spider roll gymnast type of move. Make sure you have the film queued up. And he dropped it without hesitation and delivered.
Yeah.
That guy, Bobby Strope is, I think, his name. He deserves an award.
Yeah. He deserves a second award for most shit talking pre-game. I mean, he's just lighting both the Bills and the Ravens up pre-game the last couple of weeks, man. It's been great to follow. But I will say when that kind of stuff happens, when Pat takes a shot to the knees or whatever it may be, when you see somebody do that, like my body's like doing the same thing. Like I'm like, oh, I'm like trying to like dodge somebody like that. Somebody's air tackling me. Like Emerson runs by and I'm like hitting her with the stiff arm,
Right.
But I was pretty worried there. I won't lie. And I watched that video this morning and I was like, damn, how do you prepare for that? And
well,
you
they
saw it on
showed
the
you.
Video. Yeah.
They showed you.
Yeah.
No, I was definitely heart stopped for about 2 seconds, and then I was like, okay, he's still alive. He's still alive. We were good to go.
Yeah.
I will say all the great things that we saw from the offense, this will be the last point I think we talk about with it, just because we got the job done, right? I don't care how we win in the playoffs, win ugly, just win. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
We didn't put up a single point in the second half. Now, luckily for us, the last 8 games were averaging 4 points allowed in the second half, so it really didn't matter a ton. But you really want to see these guys get put away a little quicker, in my opinion. Whether it be opting for the field goal on that 4th down attempt or whatever the case is there. Which I know it's the playoffs, you got to freaking put your nuts on the line, but I would just love to see us get a few more conversions, maybe 1 or 2 less punts in that second half.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it was, I think the game plan was, hey, guys, look, we're going to hold on to the ball as long as we can, no matter if we score or not. We're up 10. We're trusting in the defense that they're not going to break and that this Ravens offense will not score again. And so, that only works so long until the Ravens do score. And then you're only up 1 score, right? And then it's like, okay, now we got to snap back up. And now we really got to do this. So I'm a put the gas on. Let's drop another 20 on them. And really, I don't even want to have to think about this shit. That's the kind of football I like. But I think going into next week, looking at San Fran or here in 2 weeks, San Fran's going to be looking at that and saying, here's 2 things. We need to, 1, either be leading at half, or 2, we need to figure out how to score on this defense in the second half. And so I think the Chiefs have to think the same thing. 1, we need to be leading at half, and 2, we need to generate 10 points in the second half. And if we do that, we're going to win the game.
I love that vote of confidence going into Super Bowl week coming up next week. So that's pretty much all we'll have this week. We're going to take a little bit of a break before we pump out a ton of content. Trey, we are Super Bowl bound again. Insane to even think about. Next week's going to be a lot of fun, right? We're going to get some other people on here, sort of talk through, what to expect for Super Bowl 58 as the guys prepare for Vegas. The players are taking a couple days off as well, so hopefully we get some guys healthy and get ready for this media tour coming up, man. I'm excited. I'm ready for another run, ready to see what we do here. Yeah, I'm just ready.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time, man, and obviously we're lucky to be able to do this again. So, hey, Chiefs fans, Fast 40 fans, while you guys wait for another show coming up next week, be sure to go back to last week, listen to the interview that we had with Nate Herron, the Chiefs PA announcer up at Arrowhead. Great interview that we did down at the Atlas with him. That'll be able to fill some space there for you and learn, kind of the background, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes there for the Chiefs up in the booth. So. With that being said, let's go Chiefs fans, and let's go get another Super Bowl, baby.
Go Chiefs.